What's up, guys? We are with Eric Hurst, American Small Batch Tire, and Umpqua Signature Tire. We're going to hang out, talk about fishing, talk about tying, and sit in with us as Eric ties his signature pattern with Umpqua called the Thrasher. What's up, Eric?
Yeah, what's going on? Thanks for having me. Yeah. Appreciate y'all joining in, too. So we're going to get it, and y'all just enjoy the ride. So we got, this will be on a 2 and a 1.
So you're using B10S here?
Yeah, this is BTNS, but I use the Umpqua hooks a lot too. This is what's available. I use it. I don't know if y'all had Umpqua hooks or not. So we're doing slopping on the back, and I like to reverse these out so they flare out. This is yeah, no, you're fine. You're always welcome. So the thing here is like making sure that slopping set's good. I feel like a lot of people rush that, you know, like, and it spins on them.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Or you tighten it down too tight.
Yeah, have y'all, like a lot of people like almost crimp it too, like to break the vein. So that's the one side, boom. And then I'm a real touchy-feely. You know, take your time and like really manipulate your material. Get to know your material, you know. I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people just rush, and they could probably tie a better fly, you know, if they just slow down.
Most definitely.
So I always just kind of look for a little bit off, just for like a slight taper. And that's another thing. Like you'll see me kind of roll my material, because I'm always thinking about like what's it gonna look like when it's wet. So sometimes I'll even like wet my hands and like while I'm doing it, you know. So like there, it's like we're set pretty good. And then I'll walk it up. And then sometimes I'll double it back, you know. Like if I feel like it's kind of a weak fiber or like a weak feather, I'll double back over itself just for durability. And then clean these fibers up. So you gotta, and always spin your thread, you know, clockwise to make it stronger. And then boom, got the first layer. Soup. And then we're gonna come in with a little kind of hackle, just to give it kind of a lateral line, you know, something fishy.
What's the advantage of not putting those in together?
Like tying them together?
Yeah.
Like I think it's one of those things that you totally could, you know. But I always just like to kind of build it up as I go, just so like I feel like if you rush these two together, or like these 4 feathers together, they'll start to roll on you. So it's like take your time. There's another like time individually, because like this vein is different than that vein. Sure. So like you'll catch this one, and this thing will kind of turn, you know. Like you get these that roll a lot, and that's like I hate when feathers roll. So that's like a pet peeve of mine.
What are you looking for out of this tail? Are you looking for a kick? Are you looking for
real kicking. Like hence the name Thrasher. So it's like it's gonna really little bit longer than some flies, you know, just so it flickers a lot. So this right here, you don't want it the same, just kind of slide off. Building layers, building profile. And they like when it's wet, it kind of they set separate, you know. And whenever they kind of pulsate, they open up. So you got four feathers kind of working against each other. So boom, see how it kind of lays. So if you did that together, one of those feathers is kind of probably set kind of off, you know, from what I've known. So boom, that's kind of a cool taper. And then you come in on this side, and I'll leave that, you know, some people like clean it up, but I'll do both. Like I'll tie this one in, you know, and get these right here. I like want to match up pretty close. And then I'll catch him, wrap him, make sure it's setting good. It's a little longer, so I'll pull it back. But now I'll grab both and wrap back over for durability. I'm a big, like, you're spending time tying these flies, so take your time and make a durable fly, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like that's the one thing you tie. You spend your money on this material, and then you're rushing these flies, it's like, and they fall apart on you. And you can catch more fish and use that fly more. Like when you have a hot fly, she'll last longer in your box.
And that's the advantage too of like buying into the small batch program and buying a fly from you that you tied is that you know that fly was made with purpose and with confidence that it's going to last.
That's the art of it. It's just like kind of like a chef, you know, like you're preparing a meal for these trout. Always,
right.
Yeah. So I'm a big like I think this is 4, but I think the production ones are 3. Like I love stuff in 3s, you know, but we're gonna rock 4 just because it came out that way, and we're just gonna go with the flow. So you catch it, and I'm going on the left side first. I mean, this is flash over the tails, right? So I'm gonna roll it twice and then pull out the slack and then bring it over to y'all's side.
So today we fished for your first time in Montana and on the Missouri.
Incredible.
It was a great day.
Yeah.
Great to get out there with you and Fred.
For sure.
We talked a little bit when we were out there about this pattern, but why don't you talk about how this fly came to be and kind of how long you've been fishing it and what you designed it for?
Yeah, so this is probably in the making of at least 5 years, I would say. And I love throwing big streamers. So imitating bait fish and different stuff like that, you know, like the whole big fish eat big flies, you know. So the Thrasher is like a multitude of like all the people ahead of me, you know, like all the people that I always looked up to. So it's like I've always wanted to be a streamer tyer just because like all those dudes seem cool, you know. And like I was like, one day I'll have a fly that like can swim differently, you know, a little bit differently than Tommy Lynch's Drunk and Disorderly.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like respect to everybody ahead of me. I don't think enough people get that, but so this one is just like the action of it is what I really like. I needed something that kind of sinks, you know, because we have deeper holes. And then something whenever you need to stay up top, you know, you can strip it and it kind of does both, you know. Like we have a lot of wood where I'm from, like structure, and you got to drop in the hole sometimes, but sometimes you got to work wood. So it's like the deer hair is buoyant and the laser dubs, you know, sink. So it's kind of like it fights itself and it works in those circumstances.
Yeah, works great in conjunction with the sink tip.
For sure.
And I just love that hang of that fly.
Heck yeah.
And then when you strip it, you're going to get all that action, but you're going to still get in that same water that you're suspended in.
Exactly.
So you get that really, I'm dying, come eat me.
Yeah, it depends on what, you can throw it on dry, you know, dry line, intermediate, sink tip, you know, and it's like, it's universal. And I think it's like, I've had people that haven't really thrown bigger patterns, and they're like, they get it with this pattern because it kind of does everything where hang time, you know, less is best. You know, I'm always like, how can I get a fly to swim with less action of me?
Sure.
You know, like it walks the dog, it waits on you. Like, what do you want from me? You know,
you're doing the work here, so you don't have to do it on the water.
Exactly. Like you strip this and stop, you know, and it jumps and dances, you know. Hence the name, like Thrasher, like the perfect name. Like it wants to thrash around, you know, it wants to party.
Yeah, we talked about that too. It has nothing to do with skating, actually.
No, but it does skate. It skates in the water, you know. It throws down in the bowl. This thing parties, like, like I get that a lot. Like Thrasher is like one of the best skater magazines. So it's like,
what is it actually?
The name came from Georgia's state bird is a brown thrasher. So I was like, something that thrashes, brown trout thrash, and I was like, bada bing, bada boom. So it's like an homage or a little thing to Georgia, you know, like their state bird. Like all bird names are kind of cool. Like after this one, I was looking into. I'm from Alabama, so they have a yellowhammer. So that's a cool name too. So like a yellowhammer fly would be killer. They have a thing that's like Alabama yellowhammer, give them hell. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so that was just some chenille, and then we'll come into the deer hair portion. How's that looking on that side? Sweet.
So this was interesting. We were just talking about this. You don't stack this.
No, I'm not a stacker. I'm more of a hands-on kind of vibe. But you can stack it. I don't have a brush though, so no brush, but I can.
I've got
toothbrush in there. Yeah, so you just want to brush this out just to get the fibers, the little wild hairs out of it. So all we're doing, this is kind of a little short, but yeah, hang on, let me get a little longer.
Cool.
Yeah, the thing here is like finding some good deer hair that's kind of got a little longer.
How long are you looking for there on that back hook?
Yeah, so we're kind of trying to like almost even up to, you know, you want a little
That
flare like
chenille?
that, yeah. So you can do it, like it varies. But you also want to leave yourself a little bulk in the front to hold that laser dub. And then I'll catch it like that, you know. It's kind of like how you do like a deceiver, and then roll your hair.
How much are you trying to envelop that on both sides? Or are you going all the way around?
Yeah, you're spinning it all the way around.
Okay.
But kind of like not too heavy, you know. Less is best kind of deal. And then in front like that. So I used to do like a little more, but on the back you want kind of lighter.
Yeah, you don't get as much swim or kick.
Yeah. So like that's perfect. It's one of those like you can overdo it quick.
Sure.
Like any kind of fly, you know. So I always like less is best. Like if you think it looks good, you probably need to cut that in half. Honestly, you know, just for swimmability. And like I've been doing them a little bit less, so you don't have to trim as much, you know. Like the more I tie this fly, the less I do right here on the back. I'll do a little bigger head, so that drives the train, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gets that good water push.
Yeah.
And it gets the hang you're looking for.
For sure. So we're gonna do like an olive over white. So let's do our olive over gray. So this is another thing that people can overdo. The dubbing gets clunky, you know, if you overdo it. So stack it, you know, kind of get your fibers right. And then I'll come underneath, catch him, spin my rig. I'm in front of the deer here at this point. So boom, you know, this is another thing like I'll take time and work through. Find it, you know, and then we're gonna go over top with this guy. Find it. And the dub is kind of cool. Like you can kind of go over because you can pull this stuff out. Like that's another thing people just I see that they don't do that enough. Like they don't know that they can pull stuff out because it's not glued in yet, you know, or at all, you know. So that's the top. So you want to just kind of cut it in half. Like, and I like when the deer hair comes through, especially in the front because it makes almost like a gill plate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty sweet. So right here we'll separate.
Well, and the other thing that you're talking about there with rip stacking,
Yeah.
if you don't do that step, then all your fibers are going in
Exactly.
opposite directions.
And then I'm always like, I'm a big spin the bobbin kind of guy, or thread. But then right here, like I came in front, you know, but here's the point where you just chill out, you know, and make sure you're happy with it, you know, because I don't even know how many butts of flies I've thrown away, you know, because I'm like, I get to this point, I'm like, or my thread breaks, I'm like, what am I doing? There's some like, I wish I had all those just for like to hang up, you know, all my mistakes. Like the mistake, like kind of like Bob Ross, like mistakes teach you so much, you know. Happy accidents, I think. I was like, that's a vibe. So that's cool. Like I'm stoked on that, right?
So are you gonna brush that out, or you just leave it as is?
We'll brush it. Yeah. So right now I'm just gonna whip finish it, clean it up, and come in here and just like finish it up, and then we'll brush it. I always brush it out after I whip finish. Like I'll pull with my hands a lot, you'll see.
Get a little more control that way?
Yeah. I'm just handsy. I like to feel everything. So you do like 2 or 3, you know, just depending on, am I gonna beat it up, you know, and then you can add glue at this point, but I don't really do it on the back, honestly. 2 or 3 whip finishes were strong, you know, you can hit some head cement, and then you brush it out.
I got you.
Yeah, heck yeah. Just for like sake of doing a sturdy fly. Come in here and dab it up.
So do you have older iterations of this that you still use, or are they just totally out of the picture? What do those older ones look like?
Oh, they're junk. The older flies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, they get better and better the more you do anything, you know?
Sure.
So, like, some of them are super embarrassing. But they fish, though. Like, yeah, that's another thing, you know, like, you have those casts that you're not stoked on, you know, but as long as you leave it, like, never give up on your cast, like what I'll say to clients, you know, it'll come together. Like, I feel like the junkier, the faster you tie something that can work as good as the most time you take or whatever. But I do have some flies that are, you know, I probably wouldn't want to show people. Yeah, so.
Oh, we all.
Yeah, I know. That's like, I kind of wish I had them now, you know, just to show people that want to get into it, you know, that it's not always perfect. They always see all these beautiful flies like on media, you know, and it's not always pretty. Don't believe everything you see, you know. So now we're going to throw, so this is on a 1 and a 2 hook. So we're coming in with some eyes now. And you can do this unweighted too. A lot of people don't realize that you can take this part out and do it unweighted, which is cool. Like I've done orders unweighted.
If you do them unweighted, do you keel the hook at all or anything?
Yeah, you can put some wire. Yeah. And that's one thing like you can keep in your boat and do that like on board, yeah. But you can kill it out.
I'll even do that like with some of my spay flies.
Yeah.
I'll just
that's super cool.
Keep some lead in my waders and wrapped around the shank.
Yeah. I think I like saw that from Schultz. Legends. So now we're just like X wrapping these eyes, right? And these are gonna ride hook down. So you're, you know, get a couple base layers. And I'm like some of these eyes, the dots are all off, you know, so I like to get them kind of running downstream,
right.
You know. Like I hate when the eyes are back and it's kind of, it just looks goofy to me, so.
Looks cross-eyed?
Yeah, so I don't fish it with, like I'm not fishing it with confidence if I don't like how it looks, you know what I mean? Confidence is key when you're on the water, so these little things matter. Take your time. So I'll add a little glue here, head cement, and then like I'll finish up the wraps, you know, and it'll set that glue. Another thing that's just like durability. And you're really kind of cranking, you know, just kind of pushing your thread right here, because like if your eyes roll, your fly swims like not what it's designed to do, you know. And you'll look down at it, make sure it's, you know, going to kill out evenly. Another, just take your time, make sure everything's set, because once that glue sets, you're in there, you know. And you can slide them around at this point too. Sweet. And now we're going to walk her back. And I do kind of loose wraps here, so it builds up a little texture for the wire, for the articulation. Sweet. Yeah, a lot of people I get questions a lot of like, how do you articulate your fly, you know? I think that's like probably the trickiest thing. So I always come on top. So I think I learned this from Mike Smith, where you do it's like a Chinese finger trap. So I'm gonna see how this naturally bends, so I play that. Like, don't ever fight your material.
Sure.
Yeah. So if it wants to do this, I'll lay it on kind of top, and I'll set it up on the eyes, and then I run it kind of back loose, you know, just to catch it. And then now I'm gonna go back, and then back halfway, back up. So whenever it pulls tight together. And then back over all of it.
Smart.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I used to use like glue and stuff, and it's not necessary.
Yeah.
I've never had one pull the back out. You know,
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not catching big enough fish, but
never had that problem. I used to run the wire through the eye of the hook, and I don't do that anymore either.
I would. Yeah, it's funny how like the stuff you kind of lose along the way. You know. And I used to be a 3-bead kind of guy. Now I'm 2. Yeah. It's fun. It's funny.
I was going to ask you about that too.
Yeah, I'm a 2-beater now. Yeah, I think that the ones that are coming out with Umpqua are 3, and that's perfectly fine. But now I'm like, it's not necessary. So I'll come back here, and you see how it's kind of resting, you know. And this is one thing that it saves it from fouling, right? So make sure that's not too loose or too. You can do it kind of higher the better. For foul purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that I don't know about you, but using that thicker wire. Yeah. When you're making that articulation will keep it from fouling as much too. Yeah. A lot of that stuff that's really flimsy, it just flops around, hooks onto itself.
Definitely. That's another thing. It's like, then we're just battling in proportions, you know, like I'm weird, like I want it to be proportionally right. Right. Yeah. Like I don't know if that matters to fish. But like the balance of like, does the back match the front? Sure. Well, again, see, like this is like, that's money, you know. Like we got a good gap. This hook gap is, you know, like when you see like the hook here, it's like, why are we even running a back hook? You know, if it's like right on top of each other. Yeah, and again, like you're saying, I think a lot of that too plays into your confidence in the fly. 100%. If you don't feel confident in it, then why fish it? Yep. So that's cool. Like right there is money. See, She already wants to swim. Yeah, she's trying to dance already. And these Regals are cool because they have that little gap.
So
And you can kind of plant, yeah, but like you can get a magnet, which is cool.
Yeah.
So now that's the back and the joint. Nothing too crazy. And this, like, I've gotten from a lot of people, it's like a fun fly to tie.
Oh, most
And that's why I was like, it swims good, and it's like you can bust them out. It's like a guide fly. Like the profile is huge. It looks like you took like an hour to tie it, you know. But like you can bust these suckers out, you know. It's like 3 or 4 materials, but it looks huge.
Well, the other cool thing about this, and like things that I love about like Gallup's patterns, is they all have commonly found simple materials.
Yeah.
Just like this fly.
Right.
But like you said, it looks very professional. It looks like it had a lot of time that went into it, but.
Yeah, it's 4 materials really.
And you can find that in any fly
Every shop, yeah. Especially a fly project. So right here I'm just tying in the chenille and I'm going back right on that articulation and then back up. And you're just doing, you know, tight wraps right here. We're just kind of covering the beads, you know. I think the thing with this is like everybody always thinks it's super bulky, you know, but it's not. You know, like it looks like it would, like if you say laser dub with deer hair, it seems like a lot of material, you know, kind of heavy fly, but it's pretty light. So right here I'm going to wrap up just to the hook point and then catch him. And this is where I'll do that. The middle stack. And this really comes in like, so this is really light back end, you know, whippy. And then I have 2 stacks of deer hair on the front, so it's like, it really pushes it. It like kicks this fly. This fly like it swims. She thrashes. So like I mean, I don't know else how to say it. You have to fish it.
Right.
So yeah, that's it. And then we come back in with the deer hair here.
So
a little less deer hair right here, because it's in the middle of the body.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So this you don't want to overdo it here. The best part to overdo on this fly is the head.
So today wasn't really a streamer day.
No, sir.
But did you see any water that you would want to fish this in?
The whole time. Yeah, like any water is good water for ripping some flies, you know. So right here I'm kind of doing that rule of like halves. So like this deer hair is a little short, so I'm going to come in, you know, and kind of do the best I can. Everything you get, all material is different, you know, so just work with what you got. And this one you don't have to have a lot up front, you know, to hold the laser dub, if that makes sense. So I'll catch it, and right here just really work your material around. So you make sure it's all around, you know. So we have like a little flare, and then you're kind of covering the back, you know, and then you can really crank down on her. And then you're just walking it up. So it wants to kind of spin. Boom. And then all you're doing on here is just cleaning up almost everything.
And that's where you're going to get that gill plate?
No, not yet. The next one. Yeah, the next one. So see right here, these fibers are kind of up. You can come in, like, don't be scared to cut some of this sucker out, you know. I think that's one thing, like, when I first started tying, like, I always thought, like, once you put it on there, it's there,
permanent,
you know.
Yeah.
And then on this fly, you're really making sure this hook gap's clean. So down here, like, I'm cutting most of that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you don't, like, block yourself from that fish of the day, you know.
You got to have that hook keel as well still.
Yeah, for sure. So now I'm just going to make sure my thread's good, kind of double back on them. So we're pretty clean right there. We got to, you know, I'm pretty happy with that roll. And then we're going to do just a light setup of the belly. You know, light is really good right here. Like, you don't need much at all. Because if you overbulk this and you overbulk the head, like, kind of be clunky.
Sure.
Yeah, so less is best in this little mid-body region. And we're just stacking that dubbing. You know, take your time with this. Make sure your fibers are kind of all the same. And then I'll kind of flare it out like this, like almost like a V, just to get her on the hook, you know, and then come in under your thread.
So you talked about
and then
tying
catch
it
him.
In this platform.
Right.
With the 1 and the 2.
Exactly.
But you're talking about making minis in it?
Yeah, that's the one thing I really want to focus on. Like, the more I've traveled out west, the more, like, smaller stuff. And, like, same back home. But, like, trout eat smaller stuff, right? And they want to chase bigger stuff just because they're, you know, looking for opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think a smaller fly is always probably going to outfish a bigger fly.
Right.
I've always heard, like, they'll chase it, you know, just because they're predatory. but they won't necessarily eat it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so if you ever see chases, it's like you could run like a smaller fly off of this and they'll probably smoke it, you know?
Sure.
So that's why, like, my goal is kind of downplay this a little bit, you know, so more people can catch, you know, the fish of the lifetime, you know? But that's all just, like, situational.
Sure.
Like, I designed it. This size right here is not super huge, and I like to throw bigger flies, you know, and this is kind of like a medium from where we are, you know. Like, we're going to hunt it, you know.
Well, just
Like,
like
we're all
any-
about, like, zero or hero, you know.
Right.
Like, yeah, but,
Well, anytime you're fishing, you
Yeah.
want to have a diversity of sizes of the
right.
same pattern in your box.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got to know when to change.
Sure.
Yeah, like, are we getting chases and we're not getting eats, you know, downsize. So that's the middle section, you know. We got, the body is, like, pretty perfect, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy with it. So now we're going to come back in with that chenille. And then we'll do the head, and we need some legs, though. In with the legs now. So we wrap the chenille, and now we're going to bust out some legs just to give it a little motion for the potion.
How many are you doing?
I do 2. You can do 3, but I'm a 2. I like doubles. Like for like a sculpin pattern, I'll do like, you know, 3 or 4 and cut them a little shorter. But I do like 2 1/2, like catch it halfway. Spin your thread, catch him. And I'm only catching it on this side, just kind of like the flash, you know. And then now I'm gonna wrap him back over these 2, coming back on y'all's side. The viewers, the cool people of the internet world. So now we're catching them right, and now we got both. So now I'm gonna pull them both, all 4 sides down. Make sure they're pretty much even, you know. And this is like where I'll pull them back. You don't want them to kind of, right at where the barb of the back hook is kind of where I like to let mine ride. And this is another thing, you can chop them on the river. Longer is better when you're tying them, and you can always clean them up if they are like fouling up on you or something. You can trim that, you know. That's another thing, like over flash it when you're tying, because you can always trim it out, you know, later. That's another thing people like kind of overlook, you know. More you do now, you can trim it. Like, is it too flashy? Or the fish like scared of it? You know, and you can cut all this flash out. You know. Mm-hmm. So now I'm gonna do the 3 flash, and this just goes over the top, right here. So it sits on top. It kind of gives it like something to kind of to hunt while you're fishing it. You know, like on a bright day, you can see this flash on top, so you can track your fly. Mm-hmm. That's what I like about this. Like, especially like a darker pattern with like a little gold flash on top, you can really find it, you know. And then I'm gonna kind of feather it, like give it a little 70s haircut here, you know, where they're not all the same length.
Right.
And then I'm just kind of doing the half again, where I'm kind of halfway on the back. Bada bing, bada boom. And then we're gonna come in, and this is the head version, or head portion of the fly. So this one right here, I will go a little heavier with the deer hair, because I know I can trim it out to make the head, you know what I mean?
You're still looking for those longer ones here?
Yeah, longer deer hair is always going to be the player. You can always trim the butts off, you know? Shorter hair is like just cool for certain flies, you know, and there's a time and place for it, but this fly, you know, you need a little longer. That way you can really set it, you know, and find your taper. So right here, this is like the part where you were saying earlier, you like couldn't believe I didn't stack, you know.
Right.
So I'm real like I'll pick it out, you know, for the most part, and we got longer ones here, but I know I can trim it, you know.
Sure.
Like, don't overthink it, you know. You can get crazy, but right here I'm halving it again, so I'm trying to cut that in half. But at the same time, you want a little more head on this one. So right here I'm gonna catch it. See how it has a little more in front, y'all. And you're gonna lose some, and that's fine. That's the kind of the flare I want right there. And I'm grabbing the legs and everything at this time. And then I'm gonna spin my vise and go over the top. And you want this to stay on top. See right there, you're gonna catch it one, kind of flare it, catch it again. And then right here, I'll come in and pull up on all sides, and it'll really keep it above, right? So yeah, we're setting good.
I kind of like actually
And then
the
you
fact
go
that
through
that's not stacked.
Yeah.
Because now it gives it more of a natural profile.
And I like
taper.
like the loose ends coming through for that gill plate purpose that I was mentioning earlier. And then now you just do a couple setting wraps, you know, make sure you're happy with where it is, because we're going to trim that up in a minute. But right here, I'm kind of looking at my eye on my hook, and I know I'm going to trim that, you know. It's kind of like a slider, like a trout slider, if y'all have ever seen that pattern. It's kind of like the play on that, almost for a head. But then I'm going to take all these butt ends, push them back, find my hook eye, right, and come in with my scissors and just cut up from that hook point or hook eye. And, you know, you can do this with a razor. It's totally fine. People are always like, why are you not using a razor for deer hair? It's like, don't really have to because I'm going to cover it with laser dub, you know. So that this doesn't have to be perfect. I almost like it a little messy, you know. It gives it like that buggy look. And you can build these heads up as big as you want, and you can trim them down, you know. But I like a big pushy head. See right here, like that's that kind of like gill plate, like where it comes around your eye. Mm-hmm. I like that. So now I'm just kind of, you know, building your head. So going back on like that D&D, you know how like they have that real slider head. This one's kind of more like curved.
Yeah.
Just so it pushes water and kicks that back, the back end, you know, makes it dance. And then we're going to throw some laser dub on it, and she'll be wrapped up.
Cool.
Yeah. And this is where you can really overdo it. I've gotten to this part, and I've cut way too much, and then you're like, you get kind of frustrated.
Yeah.
So now, like,
playing with hair like that.
Now we're good. Like, I'll even come in here and like push down on it, you know, because it's gonna get wet and, you know, it's gonna do different things, you know. So what do you see what you're, you know, what it's gonna look like when it's wet, and then I'll come in here and even trim more. Like I'm gonna like push down on that sucker, you know. Like how's this gonna set once it's like really played, and then I'll look down the head of it, you know, to make sure it's real balanced. Because like if you have one side that's thicker, it's not gonna swim properly, right? It's all a balance thing with all the material. Anything with fly tying, it's like if it's heavy on one side, she's gonna kick. So I'm pretty stoked on that.
So the size of eyes you put on that, is that gonna have any?
Yeah, so that's the one thing. Like I'm going with balance. So these are like a medium, I think. Yeah, like a 4.8 Fly Project, which they have like killer eyes. But you can go a little bigger, a little less, you know. And you can even bury that and hide them, which is cool. Like you could cover it up with deer hair, and if you don't even want eyes, you know. Like there's some rivers like even the rubber legs, like I can't catch fish on, so I won't even put the rubber legs on there, you know. Like, but I'll tie them on there and cut them off. Like there's some like you can't catch them on rubber legs. I don't know if y'all see that out here, but there's some places where they won't touch your rubber legs, but if you cut them off, they're like, yeah.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and the same thing at home. Like by contrast, if I tie these at home for smallmouth, I put on rubber legs in the back and the front. I put on more.
I know, yeah. Bass love them. Trout hate them. So right here we're stacking. And this is another part that I probably used to overdo. So I'm behind the eyes still, right, with the thread. See that? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just do a little bit right here and catch it behind the eyes for the bottom. I think I used to do where I do it behind and like under the eye. And I think it's overkill. And I'll always look at this side, you know, I'm happy with that little gap. And then we're going to fold that back and make sure, you know, you don't catch your fiber. So I'm going over the eyes now and in front. And then, see, I used to do another stack right there. And it, like, you can if you need more weight, but it's just kind of like, what are we doing? You know, it's kind of clunky. So now I'm coming. So I used to trim the dubbing, like the laser dub too. And now I'm, like, I think the Umpqua and the ones I'm tying now, if you do the right amount of dub, you don't have to trim it. Which is not a bad thing if you do need to trim it, you know what I mean? But if you do like kind of the right proportions, you're good. So this is kind of a little fatter stack, and I'm right at the front of the hook now, like right at the eye. And now I'm gonna catch him, 2 wraps, get him on the bottom, make sure I'm happy over here. There's no gaps. Like I'm weird, like I hate seeing thread, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know how everybody else is, but if I see thread in my tying, like I'm like, oh God, you know, like everybody's gonna judge me.
Yeah.
So you're only doing 1 stack of green on the top, right? So you need a little more. And this right here is kind of complicated for a lot of people. So you want to stack it, and then I'll kind of spread it like a bigger. Mm-hmm. And you can, like I always go a little heavy because you can pull it out, you know, and we can trim it if we need to. So I'm heavy over.
And if you trim that, you're gonna trim with your fingers mostly, just pull.
Mostly pull, yeah. Like a little wet finger goes a long way. Mm-hmm. So now I'm catching him. I'm gonna come over here and make sure it's set good. I like that little, see how you can see the deer hair, you know, it gives it that gill plate. Mm-hmm. And now we're gonna pull back and down on the bottom. I think that's probably like one of the hardest parts of this fly is like getting the head right, you know?
Right.
And clearing the eyes and like not overdoing
Not
it.
trapping that laser dub.
Yeah, and this one's it's still a little bulky, but we're going to brush it out. It's one of those things like err on the side of it bulkier, you know, because you can always take away, but you can't add.
Right.
So I'm pretty stoked on that. We're going to whip finish it, add a little glue, and then brush them out, and we're thrashing. So I'm a big like 3, you know, pull. And really set your thread. Like I used to not set my thread. You'll feel it kind of catch.
Yep.
If you're new tyers or whatever. Like really pull, and it always goes like away from you. Like you'll almost feel it click, you know, and that once you feel that click, you know you're
locked in.
The trout are in trouble. So now we're gonna clean that up and brush them out.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we're gonna add some lateral lines, and that is how you do the Thrasher. And this right here, I like what you were saying earlier about hair, like pulling. Like I'll pull it up, you know, and all this loose fiber is totally fine.
Right.
I'll brush them out, yeah.
Realistically, it's probably gonna come out when you're fishing anyway.
Yeah, some of it will. That's why it's cool to over bulk. But like this fly, even if the dub comes out, it's still, you got that deer hair behind it, you know? It's got a little reinforcements, you know what I mean? She's got backup. She's not playing on her own. See right here, I used to cut, but now it's like I'm pulling more. Like I'll take a lot of this out.
Sure.
Yeah, like I'll taper it with my hand. See how you can break the laser dub?
Yep.
And like I'm taking off the top, and then I'll push back, make sure I'm clearing my hook, you know, like this. And then this is the point where I'll take it off the vise and really kind of wet it down, you know, and I'll go right here and pull back, you know, and make sure that hook isn't gapped up, you know, because you can have too much dub and that like clogs up your hook.
Right.
Yeah. So now we're pretty
Probably
gold.
The swim again too.
Oh yeah. And now like we're thrashing. We're gonna put some lines on top, you know, just to give it a little meaner look. See right here, you can like don't be scared to pull some of this.
Yeah.
But like I'm like real light on my hands. And you can save this. Like, that's not bad because we never cut it.
Right.
So it's not ruined.
Just blend it back in.
Yeah,
later.
somebody was like, there's a lot of waste, you know? Somebody asked me that one of my tying things. It's like, there's not if you just put it back in the bag.
Right.
Yeah, another thing, don't rush around.
Right.
Yeah, like that's dub that we haven't even cut. So whatever you're pulling out, so you can play again.
I like ripping with craft fur too, instead of trimming it.
Yeah.
Works good.
Yeah, I used to cut that though, but now it's like that taper is perfect.
Yeah.
So now, let's throw some lines on it. Is that looking good on y'all side? Pretty good. Sweet. See how it has like a bigger head though? And it really kicks that back in. And then I'll come in with like, I like another, 3 or 4 lines. You can really space them out and do bigger. Like I've done stuff for like muskie and perch with this fly. And you can even line the back side, which is cool, yeah. But this is like, just take your time, use the finer tip. And this, and this does bleed into it, but it's actually, it plays, It works once it's even bled into it.
I feel like barring is just automatic fish magnet.
Yeah, I do too. It makes it look mean.
It does.
It adds just that next touch, so it's like you can't do it like tying in anything. So I did both sides right there, and then I'll match them the best in the middle. And then that's it. We're thrashing and bashing. Sweet.
Cool, man.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Well, that's the Thrasher.
Yeah, that's it.
That's great.
So you ready
fly.
to rock and roll?
So tomorrow looks like we're coming into maybe a little bit better streamer conditions.
Hopefully so. Yeah.
So hopefully we can take this out and fish it.
Yeah. Heck
You fish this at home. You set it on a variety of different lines, so you might use an intermediate.
Sink tip, intermediate. You can do it on dry.
You might use floating.
It's all about like the structure of the river you're fishing and like how deep you need it to get. So that's it. Yeah.
So that's the Thrasher, man, from Eric Hurst. This is a genuine one. You can get these, of course, from us on our website through our small batch program. But if you're not able to get those, you can, of course, get the Umpqua tied ones.
So they just came out this fall with Umpqua, so I'm pretty fired up.
And we do have that in all of our shops. Yep. But there's the Thrasher. It's a great streamer. If you haven't fished this one or tied it, highly encourage you to do so because it does work in a number of different waters for different species. And
100%.
It's a great fly with lots of materials that you can find at any fly shop, including House of Fly.
Appreciate it, homie.